You can see. I don't know if you can.
Oh, no
I
way.
tried to make it sort of Sparty-like, but still something tragic is happening to Sparty. So it's like kind of good because there is a Spartan there, but his head is being devoured by a giant Wolverine, which
he'll fight back. Don't worry.
probably happens in the wilderness. I'm just guessing. Has anybody seen any of those shows where they like match up, like what would happen if you had like a shark and an alligator? Has anybody seen those? And then they predict who would win?
Yes.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know, probably
Godzilla versus Mothra.
As a Spartan, though, when I was in Alaska, one of the best sights I saw was at a lodge I stayed at, and there were some Wolverine pelts.
Oh. So cruel. So cruel. Well, Michigan State has won and defeated Michigan once again because both my kids are going there next year. So you're welcome, Michigan State. You get all my money for the next 4 years.
Woohoo! We'll take it.
All right. Welcome. All right, great.
It's a great day to be a Spartan.
Great to be here. Great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. Tell me what's going on in Ingham. Give me the scoop.
We, we worked hard last year. We had a campaign field office. We ran tons of volunteers out of it. Made a lot of voter contacts. We did countywide mailing to likely Dem voters, and had the whole slate on that. So, we had a great bumper turnout here in Ingham County, and we want to do that again in 22. It was a tough year. We had to cancel our annual fundraising dinner, but we were able to do some other fundraising. We had some great help from some great folks, including especially our senator helped Curtis Hertel raise some money for us. So we came out of the year in pretty good shape, and we're looking to head into 22 and help get you reelected in a big, strong way.
Well, you can't spell win without Ingham.
That's right.
Ooh, I like that.
That's pretty good. I like that.
You could try to make it into a crossword puzzle type of deal, but
okay.
Anyway, you're free. There's no copyright on that. So feel free to utilize that. Anyway, you guys do a great job. Ingham Dems are always so strong and the best door knockers and phone bankers. And I will say that spending as much time in Ingham as I used to, at least in the before times, more Dem signs than any place in the state, and that probably includes Ann Arbor, but don't tell anybody I said that who's from Ann Arbor. So really great work by you guys. So I'm looking forward to 2022, and especially I'm looking forward to it more than any other year, if for no other reason than for the first time in state history, we will have non-gerrymandered districts. Now, I don't know when that will happen due to the census being super, super late, because everything that the Trump administration has ever touched, he has destroyed, including the census. But eventually, we'll be getting those numbers in. And when we do, we will have impartially drawn districts, thanks in part to all the great work many of you guys did on Proposition 2 in 2018. So it's exciting. I mean, we have a real opportunity to win back the House and the Senate. And I know that we said that in previous years, and we've come really close. And certainly, 2018 was a great year in terms of all the pickups that we made around the state. But we made those pickups in spite of having either the first or second most gerrymandered state in the country, depending on your view of Wisconsin. So for us to get so close when these districts were drawn in a way where we were designed to lose them is pretty exceptional. But if you think about it in this part, we have, statewide, we swept all 3 executive offices in 2018. We now have a majority of Democrats on the Michigan Supreme Court. And a majority of women, which is pretty exciting. Both of our United States senators are Democrats, and we elected a president who was a Democrat. So we won everything that was statewide. The things that we lose are the things that are rigged against us. So, and an additional, how many votes? I missed that. Somebody tell me what that just said. Unmute yourselves.
An additional 10,000 votes out of Ingham.
Okay, well, right, exactly. And for you know, I think it's important to remember for statewide elections how important it is. I mean, man, an extra $10,000, an extra 10,000 votes, that's the whole election sometimes for a statewide. I mean, that's how close some of these are at times. And we know, of course, that was the case in 2016 with the presidential election. So 10,000 extra votes is a really big deal. So, I mean, it's exciting, you know, we're in a place where on one hand, I think people are more excited about the Democratic Party than they've been in a very long time. And on the other hand, the Republicans have totally lost it and they've gone completely crazy. So, you know, even for people who are like, where am I going to go? Honestly, you can belong to the party of Trump, which is really what that is now. And a party that supports things like, you know, extremist groups and militia operations and having guns in the Capitol, and supports, you know, leadership that believes that what occurred on January 6th in the nation's capital was a hoax. You know, or you can support people that care about, you know, protecting people's health, safety, and welfare, and people having health care, and people getting a good education, and people drinking clean water, and people having civil rights. So the choice is pretty clear. And I'm really proud to be a part of the team in Michigan. I have to say that it's really just, you know, for those who are involved in the Democratic Party, but, you know, you're insiders, but you're not always inside. When I say that, I mean, you know, I was very active in my my Dem club. I still am. I'm down here in Plymouth, but it doesn't mean you know everything that's going on. But I have to say, the leadership, the Democrats that you elected, we really work well together. It really feels like a family to me, you know. And it's not that we agree on everything all the time, but I have to say this: for the executive office holders, we genuinely seem to like each other and get along and work really well together. Our U.S. senators, they're amazing. I mean, Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow are legit good people. I mean, they're nice people. And all of our, you know, congressional delegation, I mean, including yours, I mean, Alyssa Slotkin, man, I don't know, like, did she fall out of the sky? I don't know how that happened, but she's amazing. She's really an incredible person. She's brilliant. She's a hard worker. She works well with others. It's just a joy to work with her. And I can't even tell you how many times she calls me up and just says, what can I be doing in Washington, D.C. that's helpful to the state of Michigan? All the time. And she always has a 3-ring binder, and she's very prepared. It makes me feel very inadequate, to be honest with you. But anyway, it's really been a great experience, but obviously, you know, we're almost there. We need the state house and we need the state senate. And again, can't still win without Ingham County. Feel free to use that. So anyway, I have so many things I could talk about, but you guys tell me what you want to talk about. Do you have any questions?
I do, General Nessel. Back when you were on the campaign trail, you used to have your Facebook page that was very active, telling us all the things you were doing for your Dana Nessel for Attorney General. And then also you had this great email you used to send out called Notes from the Trail, the campaign trail. Whatever happened to all that?
Well, thanks for asking, kind stranger. That's an amazing question. So I do a weekly email that I did start during the course of the campaign so people would know where we were going to be and what we were doing. And then I just sort of continued it since that time to tell people about the things that we're doing at the Department of Attorney General, because there's so much stuff out there. There's so many things that are clickbait worthy and you get distracted very easily. And so sometimes you miss things that are coming out of state government and are coming out of the Department of Attorney General that are genuinely very helpful to know. And it might be something that you missed during the course of the week, but we send this weekly email and it has all the highlights of all the things that we're doing with the Department of Attorney General. So I know it's in the chat, sign up and you'll receive our weekly email. It'll have various different articles or, media appearances in there. I don't know if anybody knows this, but I have a Twitter account. So feel free to follow me on Twitter. And get the information about what your state government is doing. I know many of you probably work for state government, but your government can't help you if you don't know what it is they do and what they offer. So it's always helpful. And sign up.
Dana, thanks for being here with us. You're going to tell me. Okay.
We have a question in the chat. What messes are you still cleaning up from the last administration?
I don't know. Don't get me started. I really tried the first couple of years in office. I really tried my hardest, not just to move forward with my initiatives, of which I had many, but to really kind of get the ship steered back on a corrective course. 16 years of Republicans in that office, it wasn't just the cases that were filed that I didn't agree with, or the arguments that were being made that I didn't agree with oftentimes. It was really a culture, I would say. And it was a culture of, obviously our job at the Department of Attorney General is to defend the state of Michigan when the state is sued, or to defend state actors, or state agencies or commissions. But of course, my perspective is we're also there to serve the people of the state of Michigan. And when your government is not being helpful, when your government instead is hurting the people, you have to side with the people sometimes, And a lot of times that means just changing the way government does business. And I will tell you, I'll never forget talking to this one guy who, a good guy, and he's a Democrat. He's very progressive. He was a big Bernie Sanders supporter back in 2016. I actually met him through my Dem Club. But he's in the Department of Attorney General. And I talked to him very, very early on, after I started as the AG. And I said, all right, so let's talk about this. You get a case filed, and that case comes in, and the allegations are that some state agency did something really terrible. What do you do? And he said, well, first thing I do, I read the complaint and I figure out, how do we get this case dismissed? And I was like, what about do you like try to see if the allegations are true? And if the allegations are true, like maybe talk to that agency and be like, how do we improve services for the people we represent? Maybe we should just provide better services instead of just trying to get the case dismissed and not even looking any further into it. And he said, he goes, well, nobody's ever suggested that to me before. And I was like, that's because you've had some really sucky attorney generals in this office. So maybe that's why. But really, that's the mentality that I think permeated a lot of state government. And I mean this with all due respect, because I know a lot of you who are members probably work for state government. But I just say this because, we have those of us who are Democrats, we believe that government is there to help you. And that government should be the best it can be and the most helpful it can be. We're not the party of like no government or just make government as small and useless as possible. We're the party of let's make government as helpful to people as possible, right? Let's make our tax dollars count and not, how do we ignore our constituents in a way that they'll finally just give up and stop trying to use our services anymore. So that was a big culture change, I felt like, and we also wanted to make sure that we were doing things proactively. Like, let's not just defend, Eagle when, there's some sort of mishap or something. Let's go out and let's go after companies that are polluting the environment. And let's use the powers of our state in a way that we are going after companies who hurt consumers or who create addictions in our residents because people are abusing their products and they know it and they're targeted to do that. There are just so many different ways that we can use the criminal division. I started a public integrity division that we are actually working very hard to hold police officers accountable in the event that they violate people's constitutional rights or they violate, the law. So, that had never been done. I mean, there was a policy in the office. I don't know if you guys know this, that we don't handle cases involving cops. Like, we don't go after cops. Now, I'm all on board for supporting, police officers when they, when they are properly utilizing the powers that they are embedded with, with their law enforcement license. But on the other hand, I also believe that police officers ought to be held responsible when they act outside the bounds of the law, just like any of the rest of us would. So, there were just a lot of things in the office. I could go on for a really long time, but I will say that I think in 2 years, we made a lot of progress, considering it had been 16 years of AGs that really, I did not share a general philosophy as to how the office ought to be operated.
Thanks. We've got a couple of questions about your position on guns in the Capitol building and the safety at the Capitol building. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think I made my thoughts pretty clear, which is that I am apoplectic that even after we had the events of last April, when we had armed gunmen overtake the Capitol, and even after we learned of the plot, not just to kidnap and execute Governor Whitmer, but also an alternative plot that these same individuals had been conspiring, which involved taking over the Capitol building, executing lawmakers, perhaps even bombing the place. And now, yet even after the events of January the 6th and the nation's Capitol and the insurrection there, guns are still allowed in the Capitol. Now, I know that Shirky was like, okay, just guns you can't see. Not the guns you can see, the guns you can't see. So you have to wear a coat over it, or you have to put them in a backpack. And I don't know how to tell people this, but a gun you can't see can kill you just as quickly as the gun you can see. It's literally the exact same gun. It's just hidden by, fabric of some sort, which doesn't actually make it safer. And it is really hard for me to understand because I have spent my entire career going in and out of courts all over the state of Michigan, in fact, all over much of America. Here's the interesting feature that every courthouse has: metal detectors and guards, either deputies or armed security, who actually run your bags through a metal detector, and you yourself walk through a metal detector to ensure that you don't have any weapons. So it is bewildering to me, the fact that we are at the place we are at in society when we are so much risk and we're at such peril, and yet still, at any time we could have an armed insurrection at the Capitol, and we would be at the mercy of whoever decided to do that. There'll be a handful of police officers that are armed in there, but it would be so very easy for, frankly, just mass chaos and a catastrophe of epic proportions at any time. And everybody knows it. And then the bad actors out there, all these anti-government groups that are operating, since domestic terrorism is, cataclysmic proportions in this state right now, perhaps one of the worst states in the country when it comes to the number of extremist organizations and membership has exploded in these organizations. I'm not optimistic. And that's why when you look at the polling on this, the polling before, this was months and months ago, before the events at the Capitol, you had 75% of the public in Michigan wanted to see all guns banned at the Capitol. I bet you anything that if you did that same polling today, it would be 85 or 90%. But you know who doesn't care about that? Republicans. That's who. It's tragic. And I've said this to Republican lawmakers that, when they are on the House floor or the Senate floor and an armed gunman comes in, you don't always know who the Republicans are right away. Probably not the Black people, probably not the brown people, but for the white people, you can't always tell. And when somebody starts spraying the chamber, there's no heat-seeking Democratic bullets, right? They will just hit anybody who's in there. And, they're willing to risk their own lives for the sake of this very, very, very small percentage of people in our state that subscribe so much to the gun culture that they believe you can have any kind of gun anywhere you want at any time. And that is simply not what the law says. So I'm going to keep fighting, and I'm going to keep being obnoxious all the time. I'm going to keep talking about it. What I hope you never hear me say is this: I told you so.
That's a great way to close that topic. Dana, what policies would you support to break down systemic racism in Michigan?
Well, now how much time do you have? Listen, racism exists in every way, shape, and form, right? And there's environmental racism. There's racism as it pertains to, our educational system. And I'm working right now, by the way, I should tell you, on a way to at least deter the, school to prison pipeline. And a lot of that, by the way, has to do with our disciplinary techniques. And the kids that actually end up getting suspended and expelled from school disproportionately tend to be children of color. And when that happens, their education suffers, and they're more likely to end up in jail or prison or with a criminal history. So that is something that we're working on right now. Another thing that we're working on right now at my office is ways to ensure that the new expungement packages that passed in the House and Senate and were signed into law last session and go into effect April 11th, how can my office do as much as possible to make sure that we get as many people as possible with their convictions removed from their record? And we know that, disproportionately, you're more likely to be charged with a crime and convicted if you are a person of color. Not necessarily because you're more likely to be engaged in illegal activity, but you're more likely to be charged with a crime and you're more likely to be convicted. So we are working our hardest to make sure that we can get, I'm working, I was on the phone all afternoon trying to figure out these expungement fairs that I'm trying to have. And I want to start having them this summer, where I go all over the state and we assist people in getting their record cleared up, because we know that this is a way that holds people down their entire lives, their ability to get an education, their ability to get a professional license, their ability, obviously to get jobs, even to rent apartments. And so I'm hoping that that is going to be something that is extremely helpful. Law enforcement. This is a problem. Let's not brush it, under the rug. I mean, we know that this is a problem, and we have seen it firsthand over the course of this last year, especially. And I will say this: I have seen such incredible disparity between the way some of these pro-Trump insurrectionists, and I say that not just when I'm talking about what happened on January 6th. I mean, what we have seen all over the state, whether people are out during protests, whether they're deciding to defy public health orders from the governor, whether they're deciding to protest outside the Secretary of State's home. The list really goes on, or whether you're deciding to make a threat, by the way, to a public official. White people treated very, very differently than people of color. Not maybe, not sort of, not kind of, like not maybe I could see that happening. No, right in front of our very faces. I can't tell you the number of times where I'm watching an incident involving some sort of a Trump-esque protest, and I'm watching it, and I feel like it's when I'm watching my kids play Grand Theft Auto. I'll be watching it on Facebook, and I'll start screaming out statutes that are being violated, and I'll be like, brandishing a weapon, felonious assault, resisting, obstructing, trespassing, and I'm just like, I'll literally be on the phone. I'm not even kidding you, with whoever the local police is or the state police. And I'm like, I'm watching this live. Why aren't you arresting anyone? You know, and it's like, oh, because they're so white, probably. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but sometimes I just can't believe it because I was like, all right, look, I'm from the Detroit area. I practiced my whole career in the city of Detroit and some neighboring areas around there. And like, if you have an AR-15 strapped on and you're in a place you're not allowed to be, and you have a state trooper standing there and you're screaming and yelling in the state trooper's face and pushing the state trooper, like you probably are going to get shot. There's like a 99% chance you're going to get shot. But that's, I guess, just if you're black. I mean, I don't know what else to say because I don't see that kind of behavior otherwise. So it's been very difficult for me to watch. And really, I can't imagine having to watch that kind of thing if you're a person, unfortunately, who if you're somebody that I've represented in my life, who was a person of color who literally got shot because they were, you know, bending over to pick up a cell phone at the wrong time. And oops, we thought that was something else, you know, and like that's enough reason to shoot a person. But somebody who is, you know, up in somebody's face while they're armed and screaming and yelling and trying to burst onto the floor of the state house, like, I don't know what to tell you about that situation. So here's some things that we're trying to do right now. And I've been in talks, by the way, with people who are now in the Department of Justice. I've been in talks with people with the FBI. I've been, you know, in talks with the MSP, and the list goes on and on. But a number of things that we're trying to change. Firstly, I believe that the same way we kick people out of the military if they are in any way involved in an extremist organization, why do we not do that with law enforcement agencies in our state? How are you allowed to have membership or to have close contacts with an extremist group that is an anti-government group? Because remember, if you are in law enforcement, you are government. So it seems a little contradictory that you would also be involved with an anti-government group. Why are those people allowed to continue serving? We should have laws against that. And you should be able to lose your license as a law enforcement officer if you are consorting with those who espouse white supremacy ideology or extremist ideology. So that is something that I would like to see passed, either at the federal level or at the state level. You know, in terms of licensing for police officers, I'm not saying that we have to make it so much easier for a police officer to lose their license than we do anybody else. But why is it so much harder? It is so much harder to lose your license to be a law enforcement officer than it is for any other kind of professional license. So let me give you an example. If you are a law enforcement officer, the only way you can lose your license is this. Either you get convicted of a felony, not charged, convicted, as in found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, or of a high severity misdemeanor. Then you can lose your license. Or you've left one department and haven't gone to another department for a couple of years. The end. The end. Now, if as an attorney, I could lose my license in like 1,000 different ways. I don't have to commit a crime. I could just do something that sort of diminishes the profession that I'm practicing in. So if I violate the professional rules of conduct in one of, could be thousands of different ways, somebody can file a grievance against me. And many folks currently have. In fact, they are some of the same people that I filed grievances against who were involved with the Trump campaign litigation, have now filed, in exchange, have filed grievances against me. But that being the case, I can say or do things that are deemed to be unprofessional, and I can have my license suspended. I can be, fined, or I could even be disbarred for it. But for a police officer, it is so hard to do that. The other thing about it is this: most professions require continuing education. So as an attorney, I have to get a certain number of hours in every year in order to keep my law license. Not so for a police officer. There is no continuing education requirement. So when you went to the academy in 1990, you might have learned everything there was to know about the Fourth Amendment. And you might have scored 100% on whatever test you took to ensure that you understood the Fourth Amendment. But here's the thing about the law over the course of several decades. It changes. So maybe what you were doing in 1990 was perfectly fine and didn't violate anybody's Fourth Amendment rights when you were performing a search or a seizure. But that doesn't mean in 2021 that is not illegal conduct. But how the hell would you know? Because you haven't been trained on it, because there is no continuing legal education or continuing education for police officers. And as a result, you know, for many of these officers, no matter how good they want to be at their profession, if they're not afforded this continuing training, how can they really be that good at their jobs, no matter how hard they try? So that's a problem, and we ought to fix that. And then there are all kinds of training, and I know you've heard about this because these bills have been bandied about. Sometimes they even have passed in the Senate, but inherent bias training or de-escalation of force. I mean, these are things that police officers need to know in order to be the very best they can be. And here's what's so crazy about it. You know, many departments will say, look, we just don't have the money for it. We'd love to train our officers, but we can't take our cops off the road because that's going to cost a ton of money. We put them in a training session. Now they're not out there patrolling, and it costs a lot of money. Well, that's true. It's absolutely true. But you know what costs more money? Lawsuits. Like a lot more money is lawsuits when you are sued for violating people's constitutional rights. And so I say this, and I should make this very, very clear. I do not in any way, shape, or form subscribe to this defund the police mantra. I'm all for more social workers, 100%. I'm all for more programming for people who have substance abuse issues. And I'm happy to tell you that I plan to bring in hundreds of millions of dollars into the state of Michigan very soon. I just brought in $19 million, my office did, from a settlement involving an opioid-related piece of litigation. We're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars coming in. Absolutely. That has to go to assist people who are suffering from addiction and drug court and programming and all kinds of things that we could be doing to help abate the opioid epidemic. And so of course we want that. And I don't know any police officers who don't want to see that. But my concern is I don't like seeing people say we ought to pay police officers less or we ought to curtail their benefits, because that is a recipe to get people who are not, you should never have a badge and should never have a gun. I want the very, very best police officers I can possibly get. And the only way you get that is by paying them a salary commensurate with the person who has to put their life on the line every single day. And I've seen what happens in departments where they don't pay the officers very well, where they don't provide very good benefits. They end up with officers that are not nearly as educated or caring or concerned about their communities, and they don't have the skills necessary to be a good police officer. So, you know, I'm not a fan of that. I've seen what happens. You know, you get what you pay for. And if you want good police officers, you got to pay them decently. And so these are things that, you know, just general thoughts about policing. I could go on in about a billion different areas on that question because it's pretty expansive, but here's just a few areas.
That's great. That's great. All right. One last question, Dana. What can we as a party do to help you?
Well, I mean, you know, I would say that firstly, you know, I'm going into my reelection cycle, which I can't believe that I'm already having to start, you know, fundraising again. And I feel like I still have post-traumatic stress disorder from 2018. It feels like it just happened.
I think Dana's froze up.
Can you hear me?
Oh,
Now
you're
we
back.
can.
I wasn't sure if it was near you.
Okay. All right. I really, you know, I have to be prepared. And I know that the AG races have become insanely expensive. It's really unfortunate. On one hand, I think it's great that people have seen the value and the importance of having a really good state attorney general. Same thing with Secretary of State. I mean, I think no one fully appreciated the importance of these down ballot races, frankly, until the last couple of years. But that being said, the Republicans really, really want this seat back. And they have specifically targeted Michigan and Wisconsin because they think that these are the two most flippable seats from blue to red. There are other seats that they also flipped in 2018, Colorado and Nevada, but they sort of see those as like, they're too blue now, but they don't see Michigan that way. So I see tens of millions of dollars being poured into my race by the Republicans and by Raga. All over the country, money will come to Michigan. And I think that there are candidates who have not yet announced, but who are probably waiting to see how I do for this filing, because so far I really haven't raised any money. I tried to raise money for state house candidates, and I put together a PAC for that. And I worked, I don't know if Julie Brixey is on today, but I worked with her really hard to try to flip a bunch of house seats. Didn't work great, but we tried our hardest. Like I said, when we're not gerrymandered in 2022, I think it'll be a lot more effective. But now I do have to focus a little bit more on my own race because I know it's going to be very, very expensive. So, you know, that is something to be mindful of, but also, you know, just supporting me in other ways would be great, just to make sure that your friends, your family, your neighbors, you know who your attorney general is and know that you support your attorney general. And whether that's retweeting things I put out or sharing it on Facebook or Instagram or any other social media, or just making sure people know about the good work that we're trying to do at the department. All of that would be really helpful. So, and I will say, if any of you guys want to have fundraisers, like, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. And I think, you know, for me, it's actually more significant earlier than later, because the more I can raise earlier on, the better chance I have of scaring off a more formidable opponent who says, you know what, Dana's got really, high name recognition. Thank you, Donald Trump, for mean tweeting at me perpetually. I get a lot of death threats, but I also have high name recognition because of it. So thank you, Donald Trump. But, you know, they might say, oh, but, you know, we can still beat her, though, because she's not very good at fundraising. So I have to make sure that's not the case. And I have to have a war chest that's built up and ready to go. And I will tell you, that was the thing about Alyssa Slotkin in terms of why she was able to be successful, because she really never stopped fundraising. I mean, she's known as being an incredibly prolific fundraiser, and it scared off a lot of the more challenging candidates that she could have run against, because they saw her war chest and they were like, we can't compete with that. Now, I'm no Alyssa Slotkin, but Alyssa, if you're on, if you could share your email list with me, that would be great.
All right. Well, I think I'm having a fundraiser with you at the end of March. Date quite to be determined. So if anybody wants to participate in that fundraiser, they can send me an email and I'll make sure you're on the list. Thank you so much, Dana, for being here. It was really great to hear from you. There were a ton more questions in the box, but we don't want to keep you here all night. We want to let you get back to your family. And
well, sorry I couldn't sign on for like 20 minutes, but
well,
let that not be a reflection of my ability to use Zoom, which it is really, actually.
Well, we care more about your ability to use law.
All right, thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you.
Take care, guys. Good to see everybody. Have a good one.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to jump off here. Thanks, Chris.
Okay,
I
thanks,
appreciate you bringing Dana on and everyone's patience. And good to hear from you, Carol, and also Robin. Nice to see you, and you as well, Chris, and also Elena Greer. Hello, and everyone else. You guys have a great evening.
All right, thanks, Rick. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call our regular meeting to order. We have the agenda was emailed out. Is there a motion to approve that agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Robin Smith. Supported by Elena, I think. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and we have minutes. We had a communication issue, so we have all of our minutes from January or from 2020 and spring convention. We're just making sure they're all approved. So is there a motion to approve all of those minutes?
So moved.
Thanks, Mr. Fox.
Support.
Second. Thank you, Robin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, two reports. I'm going to keep my report kind of brief. First, I want to start off. Our bylaws say that my committee chair appointments should be confirmed by this group. For the committee chairs, I'm going to have communications as Chris Andrews, who is on the call tonight. Elections, and he would be a new chair of that. Elections is Ted Lawson. For finance, Mary Kay Scullion, who's also our elected treasurer. Resolutions and bylaws is Dan Fox. Organization and development is Brian Jackson, who's also our secretary. And then we're proposing, the officers are proposing a new committee, the Rural Outreach and Rural Outreach and Community Development Committee. So that's to do a couple of things. Number one, continue our rural outreach, and number two, just work to build stronger bridges, with other groups and communities. So that'll be Diane Holman, who's one of our vice chairs. So is there a motion to accept those chairpersons?
So moved.
And I guess that would also include this body approving the creation of the new committee.
So
Robin,
moved.
did I thank you, Robin?
Support.
That was Ted. Supported. Thank
Yes.
you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then the Michigan Democratic Party has a new rule that I'm supposed to read this statement into the record. The state of Michigan occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, the Ojibwe or Chippewa, and Potawatomi. The Michigan Democratic Party recognizes historic indigenous communities in Michigan. Thank you for increasing the font size for me. And those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. The Michigan Democratic Party further recognizes the ongoing relationship of dependence upon and respect for all living beings of earth, sky, and water. And offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm indigenous sovereignty, history, and experiences. Okay, so I also wanted to just take a minute. I think we do have some people on the call who we haven't seen before. And it's already, some of the things have been mentioned that we did last year in terms of the election. But I also want to call on Brian Jackson to say a few words briefly about that. And then I think our prior communications chair, Elena, if she can keep it limited to a couple minutes, I'll give her an opportunity to talk as well. She was very involved in that too. Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Just basically, and the reason we're bringing this up, because this is, we want to replicate, hopefully without a pandemic, the efforts and the plans that we have to, we lit drop a lot of doors that we would have knocked if it was safe. We raised enough money, thank a lot to Senator Hertel, but also the generous donations of so many people when they came in to pick up a lawn sign, because we had an office that was donated. could come in and pick up signs, and we were able to turn that money right or back around in order to do 2 mailings into the to the district. The election cycle is now really have changed to back things up, and absentee voting is now a bigger part of the election than ever before, which requires the county party to have the money and the volunteers to hit the doors now 45 days before an election. And so that weekend, GOTV used to be when it snowed and it was rained and it was, right before the election. And that still is a important piece, but is equally important now to have hundreds of volunteers out in late September to be in those weeks up to it and being out to knocking on doors when the ballots are being in their mailboxes and reaching out. And that's what we did. And the whole year prior, we worked with the state party on doing outreach and the neighbor to neighbor effort. And we are looking to do that again in any way that is safe this summer and fall as well. But we can only do that with continual support. And so many people have now signed up for regular donations on a monthly basis, and that really helps sustain us. So we knocked on doors. We had a campaign staff person for those last few weeks. We lit dropped, we phoned, and we worked with all the other campaigns in the fall. And that's what we're looking to go forward, where we really don't know what our districts will be looking like. We need to be ready for everything. So I'll hand it off to Elena to talk a little bit on the communications piece of it. If she's still there.
Thanks, Brian. Yes, Yes, I'm here. Communications this last year was amazing. For the first time, we had a professional media budget. We produced high quality videos, ran digital ads, and ran a state of the art program that even the state party wasn't doing. I really believe that the work that we did in 2020, we can really build on for 2022. All the things that Brian just mentioned are fantastic, but we're working to make this even bigger and better operation in 2022. And just so you guys know, I've got some news to announce. I'm going to be working with a mayoral campaign in 2021, sorry, in Lansing. And in order to not have a conflict of interest, I will no longer be the communications chair. This has been a really fun opportunity, and I look forward to continuing to serve the party and work in other capacities. But just in order to keep everything fair, I'll be handing things over to our new guy. So thank you guys for all your support and everything else. And it's been one hell of a election year that we had, but we came out on top. Now it's just a matter of doing the work, raising the funds, and bringing it home in 2022. Thank you all.
All right, thank you both for those great words. So moving on our agenda, Mary Kay for our treasury report, and then I think you have a motion.
Okay. In the administrative account, we have $9,307.96. In the PAC account, we have $15,044.77, plus $1,000 in savings. And it's my intention to move some of the money, the $15,000 into savings and just leave it there. It won't earn much, but it'll at least be safe for the next election. So as I mentioned earlier, before we started, this was largely attributable to the fine work that Senator Hertel did in terms of fundraising for us. as well as all of the hundreds of people who came into the office to get yard signs and who personally made contributions to our campaign effort. The bank was kind of in awe when I showed up with a big wad of 1s and 5s and 50s. I carried around so much cash, I had to go to the bank immediately upon picking it up. So it really was an awesome year for us, and we're off to a good start for next year. And I would move that the committee accept the treasurer's report.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second for that?
Or,
Scored by Mr. Fox. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then Mary Kay, I think you have an additional motion, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, but I
Regarding the-
blanked on it.
creating a federal PAC.
Oh,
Yeah, the
right.
Federal PAC.
The officers talked extensively at our last meeting. And in order to put out a slate piece that had Senator Peters and Alyssa Slotkin, we had to have access to a federal PAC. And this last election, last 2 election cycles, we've used MDP's federal PAC. This past year, it was a very agonizing process that took longer than we felt we should be tied up trying to get approval to get it printed. So therefore, the officers agreed that we will form a federal PAC for the Ingham County Democratic Party so that we can avoid this problem in the future. And I
And
will
that was
so
a motion.
move.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Sounded like Ted to me. And another thing is the mailing that went out under the name of the Michigan Democratic Party. So people that received it thought that they did, that, they got some credit for our work. And if we're going to keep doing it in the future, we need people to understand that it was us who did it. So I think it's an important step for us. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Robin Smith. What we also found is that the paperwork is very cumbersome, but also as we see, our statewide races are really going to heat up this year. And so in this election, and then I believe moving forward. And so if we can do what we need to do to make our paperwork more concise and already have our PAC set up, we'll be able to fundraise, like even as our AG said tonight, because she's going to have a tough race. So sooner better than later.
Okay. Thank you. Any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Brian, Secretary report.
Yes, I'm looking to formation of a welcoming subcommittee that would report to the secretary. Looking for 2 to 4 volunteers. So if you're willing to just put that into the chat or you want to email, but folks who are willing to reach out to new members, we get a few people signing up every week. Hopefully, coming out of this meeting, we'll have a few more, and looking for people whose sole responsibility is within a week after they sign up or attend at a meeting is to reach out to them. We know that as all of us, that whether decades ago or days ago, when you first come into these meetings, it can be quite confusing and help kind of show them around and help the ropes. So if you're willing to do that, basically the commitment is you will call or email. I'll forward their information to contact them and just let them know when the next meeting, the next major activity. So it's a pretty short-term commitment each time, just a few minutes. once a week or so. So if you're willing to do that, please put your information to the chat, or you can email Brian pdjackson@gmail.com for that. Second thing is, if you could also notify in the chat, or for those, if there's anyone on phone, if this is your first or second time attending since October 2020, to become a member of this expanded county board and are able to vote in future meetings, you have to attend 2 meetings in a in a 3-month period, or in 2 out of the 3 months. And so if you can let us know in the chat, unless you're on the phone by voice, is there anyone on the phone that this is their first meeting or second meeting since October? If not, you can put it in the chat. I can put that into our record, and then you come back for our March meeting, and then you'll become a member and voting and going forward. So so please join the chat, and if you've done that. So thank you.
Great, and I see some people are chatting in that that's their first or second meeting, so that's great. Welcome, everybody. We want to be a welcoming and inclusive party, so definitely we'll grab that information and try and get you as involved as we can. I remember my first meeting was November or December of 1989, so I'm sure there are some people on here who weren't born then.
And someone has the sniffles, if they can mute. It's really distracting when you're trying to speak. So
Okay.
thank you.
Vice Chair reports, Veronica, Robin, Ted, Diane, do any of you have anything you want to share?
Mr. Chair, I did want to share about our convention that will be coming up on Saturday, and to remind us that we are a part of the 8th Congressional District, and our caucus meeting will begin at 11 o'clock. If you have not received information, please put something in the chat so that we can make sure that you are a proper voting delegate. A proper voting delegate is an individual that has become a member 30 days prior to the convention, as well, unless you are an elected official or a precinct delegate. And so the convention will begin immediately after our caucus meeting. During our caucus meeting, we'll be electing our officers for the 8th Congressional District, as well as for State Central and the executive team for the 8th Congressional District. If you have any questions or anything, I'll answer any questions. If not, if you put something in the chat, I'll reach out to you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Can I speak on the Rural Development Committee? I'm looking forward to now that that committee is formed and building some of the work we did during the campaign in the rural areas and come up with a plan for how we can get more involved out and about in the county.
Thank you. Veronica or Ted?
No, I'm okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're okay. Thank you.
Veronica is a candidate for the State Central Committee, and Ted is also one as an alternate for the State Central Committee.
All right, moving on to committee reports. I know Diane already talked a little bit about hers. One thing I do want to mention is several of the committees have returning chairs. I think, we have one new committee and one new chair of an existing committee. We are looking, to groom people to move into leadership positions. So if you want to get involved and look to be a future chair of a committee or get involved, please reach out to your committee chair that you want to get involved with. We really do want to make sure that that people that want to be involved are being groomed and taught to know how our committee structure works and how to be involved with the party. It's really important that we, you know, continue to bring new people in, whether they're, regardless of the age, young, old, it's not the age, it's, you know, the new ideas, the new energy. So we welcome people to jump in. And I want to thank our new and relatively new involved to the county party, Chris Andrews, for getting involved with our committee structure. I appreciate that.
Happy to be involved.
Thanks. Are there any committee chairs that want to add anything? Oh, Ted, I think you need to briefly report on the school elections coming up.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, excuse me. Hard to believe, more elections coming up. But yes, in May we have school elections in Holt, Okemos, Waverly, and Fowlerville. How that affects Ingham is kind of strange, but I won't get into that. But mostly they are bonding issues, and one is a sinking millage, I believe. I'm gonna share in chat. Hopefully it works. Let me see if it works. The proposal, if anyone wants to look at it.
I'm sorry, Ted, I forgot to put it on the webpage. I will definitely
I
do
know.
that.
Well, okay. There, it's in the chat. It's the standard thing, but I'm just gonna make a motion that we approve a yes vote on all 4 of these.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we endorse yes vote on these 4 school district ballot questions. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. All right, anything else, Ted?
That's it for now.
Okay, thanks. Brian?
Yes, so one reason that I'm very excited that we just did endorse that, because I think it's a great opportunity to continue our outreach. And so the Organizing Development Committee will have 2 repeat meetings. So you can go to either an evening session on February 26th or on March 1st at 10 a.m. for those who are available during the day, to look at maybe, you know, some opportunity to do some outreach, engage with our Democratic voters who maybe don't vote very often, to start getting further into the habit and voting those special elections and supporting our schools. And I'm hoping that Diane might be interested as you look at the Fowlerville School District reaches out into the Williamson and our rural part of Ingham County is another way of to do outreach into that area. So I appreciate that endorsement because it gives us an opportunity to further engage voters in the spring in that effort. But that meeting also will talk a little bit about ideas of outreach for this summer, bringing the neighbor to neighbor effort. Those who did that and lit drop their own neighborhoods, what things they're interested in doing again this summer, and further opportunities there. So you'll be seeing more information shared as these 2 meetings come up and going forward. So we are not taking our rest is over for the winter holidays, and now we're getting geared up for outreach again for the spring and summer. So any questions about organizing development committee at this time? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Brian. Okay. Well, when we're in person, we have a form that we have people fill out when it's their first time, and then we know who they are. Their second time, we need to figure out a way to institutionalize that on the Zoom meetings. So think for this time, we'll skip that and we will, Brian, you and I need to figure out a way to have an online form or something so that we can capture information. Brian already mentioned how you, if you come to 2 out of 3 meetings, you can become a voting member of this group. It also is required that you be a member of the state Democratic Party. So there, you can join at any level, including a free membership, all the way up to, give your life savings, which I don't quite recommend, but so, if you want to get involved, please make sure that you make sure that you're a member of the state Democratic Party, as well as come back next month. We'll be doing it at the same time and Zoom location, and that will go out via the same communication methods that it did this time. And then we will have figured out a way to collect information of people so that we can kind of mimic our normal in-person process.
Chris, I started with the
Mr. Chair.
chat. Sorry, Robin.
We started with the chat. We may want to set up a Google document that people can sign into.
Yeah, I think we need a Google form for first, second time members. But I don't think we can capture what's in the chat and we can go back and approve that later, but I don't.
But moving forward,
right
have a Google document that people can sign into so that way we can keep an accurate record.
Yeah.
I'll be reaching out to those first members so that they have the party membership. So that was, if they're already in our database, I'll be reaching out to them to make sure they have that party membership. So at least they have that step required, is it? So we'll further work on that. But we have that's why I copy and paste the chat already into a separate document to start continuing with that.
Great. All right. We do not have any old business. So going on to new business, there is a link here how eligible members may participate in the state convention, which is this coming weekend. So you do have to, as Robin had already mentioned, and everyone that the state party thinks is a member got an email this within the last 2 weeks. I don't remember the exact date, but you have to have been a state party member before the 30 days ahead of the convention, or if you're a precinct delegate or Democratic elected official, you can join closer than that date, but you do have to be a state party member in all circumstances to participate. And again, that is this Saturday. District caucuses at 9 a.m. The state convention is 2:30. The main purpose, I'm sorry, it's anticlimactic, but I believe the main things that we elect at the main convention, the chair, vice chair, and second vice chair are all uncontested. So a little bit anticlimactic, as sometimes we are. But, so I hope you will participate this weekend. And that, any questions or on that? And that takes us to our resolution on Lansing City Council member Brandon Betts. And for those of you who have been watching what's going on, I think you are aware that Councilmember Betts has taken what many consider to be inappropriate action on chat and text, and which has led the city council to remove him from all his committees, which also limits his effectiveness representing the first ward. And from my perspective, unlike the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, I believe we hold our elected officials to a high standard. And that's why, I think this is an important resolution that we go on record saying that his activities are not what we expect from someone who purports themselves to be a Democratic, although elected nonpartisan, but purports himself to be a Democratic or progressive official. So I look forward to, if there's a motion, I will take that, and then we can have discussion.
So move.
Thank you. Moved by Robin Smith, supported by Ted. Discussion.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The dialogue that in exchanges that Mr. Betts has had with these individuals has been made public, but even if it hadn't been made public through the City Pulse and others, the City Council has also taken steps to, as Chris has stated, our chair, corrective measures, which limits his effectiveness. And I think it's really important that we as a party also do speak up about this, because it was directed because of Black Lives Matters. And many of the things that were said were just so derogatory, and I will not repeat. But we want to go on record as saying that this is not acceptable behavior. And we do give endorsements, being the party. When people are running, they come and they ask for our endorsements. They come in, they make speeches. And so we must hold them accountable. And that is why I am in favor of this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion?
I'd like to make a comment, but I've been thinking a lot about it. And, some of us are not from Lansing. Many of us, I'm from Meridian, and I feel that, I'm not directly involved in this to make this decision, that affects what's going on with the Lansing City Council. And I also was thinking about, as a former county commissioner, and I'm on a lot of boards and things, that, if that was going on within a board that I was on, I would like a chance to work through it more. And I think the city is working through it. And I think giving also Mr. Betts a chance to just have a little more. It's happened, it wasn't that long ago. And I think there should maybe be more time given to allow them to work it all out, and just give a chance to write things. And I don't think that time has passed. So I don't feel I'll be adopting it unless I hear something in between here. But I just think it's too premature and maybe not right for us to do it at this time.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Yeah, this is Dusty. I would generally second what Diane said. I read about his comments and thought they were appalling. And I'm new to Lansing also. My wife and I moved here about a year ago. My question would be, and I don't know Mr. Betts at all. Do we have a sense of whether this was an isolated incident by him, or was this part of a pattern? I think that's one thing I would want to know before asking him to resign.
This is also something that the council has requested as well, in terms of making him, lessening his functionality on the council. And so I think that we are well within the bounds of asking for his removal. And there are times that we do things that are so egregious that I'm not certain it warrants having a pattern of behavior, but the behavior itself is just so egregious that it warrants taking action.
And I would say that he has passed on the opportunities to attend city council meetings subsequent to this, rather than facing. He has opted out of participating, which I think is a substantial issue. Instead of a full apology, he's ducking.
That's a good point.
It's important for us to keep in mind that the resolution does not ask the city council to remove him. We ask that he consider resigning because of his lack of effectiveness. I think it is timely and it is appropriate that we take action because his comments in the press and in text messages were both inflammatory and very negative about the co-chair of the Black Lives Matter. And I think that there's serious question in my mind about his ability to carry forward his job on the city council. I'd also point out that the draft resolution parallels a lot of what's in the city council resolution, including the request that he consider resigning. So we're not going out there on our own demanding he be removed from office, but asking him to exercise some control over his behavior with regard to holding the office.
And I concur 100% with Mary Kay there. I was a little hesitant at first, but yeah, we are asking him to make the choice.
I'd like to point out that I think this is all about personal responsibility, that he didn't go out of his way to make more public comment on this, to publicly apologize. And based off of what I saw today, hearing that I believe, if I was correct, the other person was terminated in this offense, I think that it's more than reasonable that we say, you know, we hold our city council accountable and that they should step up if that's the platform that they ran on to be elected.
Okay, any more questions, discussion?
I would just like to voice the same support of what Robin Smith was saying, and what I think everyone really wants to say, or what everyone is saying here, is that we're all being held to a higher standard. So with a lapse of judgment, you can't really have that kind of lapse of judgment, especially when it comes through sending messages, which for me, I was always taught, you think before you talk. So I'm not sure what his actions were telling him in his mind of what should I say in response. But whenever I send a message, or whenever I reply to someone via a written form of something, I'm always thinking concretely and concisely about how they're going to interpret what I'm saying. And with that being said, with all the words that, council member did say, that's terrible. You can't do that because now it's on the internet. Anyone can search it from 20 years from now. And we have some new members here joining to the Lansing community. Michigan is a growing place. Lansing is a growing city. Any residents who are looking, well, how does Lansing fare in terms of treatment of its people? If they want, not saying that everyone is doing that, but you don't want to deter people by how some of, like I said, holding to a higher account, holding to a higher standard. So you don't want to deter people based on others' actions and what they have said and what they haven't said. So, yeah.
Thanks, Alexander. Thanks. Any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution say aye.
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 And any opposed?
No.
Okay, I hear a nay. So the resolution is adopted. And that ends our business. So we are to our reports and elected officials reports. Are there elected officials? I know our county prosecutor was on earlier. Do you have anything to report? She might be gone now.
Yeah, she's gone. No,
I
she's
think
there.
gone.
She's
I'm
in-
here. I just can't get back onto full screen. Sorry. I have a lot of technical challenges as well, but I can see Robin, but for some reason I can't get mine back into full screen. At any rate, I don't have anything specific to report. I mean, certainly COVID has impacted how we are functioning, just like everyone else. We're doing mostly Zoom hearings. We have not resumed jury trials. I've been spending a great deal of time working on race equity and police accountability issues, either going to public bodies and talking or reviewing things or strategizing what we should do and what the response of my office can be. Because my firm belief is that if the prosecutor says certain kinds of, oh, thank you, that certain kinds of behaviors from the police are not acceptable, even if they don't rise to the level of something that we can actually charge criminally, that we're going to get the message across. Please don't be stopping people for, like some of you heard about the Idaho Falls broken taillight, where an individual was chased and ultimately a totally unrelated individual standing in his own backyard was shot and killed over a broken taillight. So, those kind of minor traffic equipment violations and minor infractions are very concerning, and I've been watching those for years. And I think we're getting to the point where I'm starting to talk to the law enforcement agencies about this and some community members. That the prosecutor can't just be reactive and always just review the cases that come. We have to drive the policy too, and sometimes that means saying, really, if it's a very minor reason, maybe we don't make that stop at all. There's been a lot of discussion about having outreach workers or having minor traffic violations separated out from typical law enforcement. I don't know what form that'll take, and it's, I think, going to be different with each of our police agencies, but I think that there's a sincere effort to look at that. But this is a very odd time. I don't know how many of you listened to the mayor's race equity and justice and equity alliance report yesterday. I find very disconcerting that there's kind of there's a breach in the community that doesn't seem to be fully acknowledged, that we can't really move forward until we really acknowledge that the systems aren't working. They're maybe not broken. There's some who say they're working the way they were intended to work, and that is with implicit bias and racism. So my feeling is that it's going to be really, really hard to move forward unless we're willing to do that first. We can't do the healing portion until we really are willing to accept and acknowledge that we're part of the problem. Even if we're all individually good people trying to do the right thing, that we're just part of the problem. We have to acknowledge that first and try to heal that piece first before. So there are many things going on with that. And that really is one of the biggest things. Obviously, once we can start doing more court hearings again, we're going to be incredibly busy. We're dealing with all the constitutional rights of defendants who are not having their trial, in a timely way. We're dealing with victims and witnesses who are terribly inconvenienced by this. And of course, just the aggregate stress that this puts on all parts of the system. We're seeing, of course, as you know, growth in overdose deaths, a rise in homicides and gun violence, domestic violence, child abuse. Those are things that are going on across the nation, pretty much every urban area especially. And they're related to the stress of COVID and how that's just really emphasizing all the fractures that already exist in the system. And so we're in a time when some really important big things can happen, but it's an exhausting time where I think a lot of people are saying, I don't know what to do next. So I hope that at least locally that we will work on coming together and saying that, we're going to listen in good faith to each other, hold each other accountable, though, and really make a sincere effort, not to plaster over the crack, but to really, to dig into the crack and find out why it happened. Because there are some things that we really have to look at closely to try to make the system work better. So that's kind of my report, which isn't probably what you were expecting, but it's what's on my mind these days.
That's great. Okay. Other elected officials that want to give a report? Anybody?
I can jump in for a second. Chris, I wasn't really planning on speaking, but I wanted to follow Carol. Carol, it sounds like we should have coffee or something.
Jesse,
Yeah.
that's Jesse
Oh,
Gregg
sorry.
from East Lansing, right?
Is this Jesse
Sorry.
Ray?
Yeah.
Jesse Gregg, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's not have
Jesse
dinner
Gregg.
on the roof of El Teco again right now, though.
No, probably not. No.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Yeah, no, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jesse Gregg. I serve as the mayor pro tem in the city of East Lansing, although I resist that title very strongly. I don't know, it's purely ornamental and I just feel like it's silly, but anyway. So I'm Jesse. Following up on what Carol said, I think, I'm entering my second year in this position, and knowing, obviously I don't think you can grow up in this political climate in America. I guess maybe some people are blind to it, but you can't, certainly can't be a Democrat without acknowledging that our entire system is impacted by racism. Naively, I didn't realize it was going to be quite so much of what I was dealing with in this term of office. But, I also appreciate that I'm in one of the very few positions where I can actually have an impact on something as opposed to just, pushing from the outside. So hopefully, I can take this position. Myself and my fellow council members, I think we're fairly united in changing the way that we police our communities, certainly changing the way that our work culture within our city towards, a primarily white system. So that's all stuff that we're working on right now. And Carol, I've been talking to people at county, but I want to talk to you too, because I think that in Ingham County specifically, we have a really unique opportunity because we do have kind of a united leadership. I think that East Lansing is fully on board. I would say that Lansing is generally on board, although recent events might, I don't know, the firing of Mr. Lynn today has shaken me a little bit in my faith in that particular administration. But, our county board is also fully stocked with pretty progressive Democrats. So if we can't impact that in this part of, in a united county, like, I don't know where we could possibly have an impact. So as a part of that team, I'm excited to work with that. And Carol, it sounds like you and I maybe should check in socially distanced. But anyway, I just realized that I stopped coming to Democrat meetings because I had Wednesday committee meetings, and then I'm actually not on that committee anymore. So I just realized I could join you guys again.
Yay.
I was not actually expecting, Dana's little presentation was kind of a bonus, but mostly I just wanted to let you guys know who I am and that I'm here and that hopefully I'll see you guys more often now. So.
Great. Okay. I think that's it on elected officials. Any organization caucus announcements, good welfare? We'll just roll it all together. Any other quick announcements?
Yes.
Elena.
Well, things are about to get very interesting in Lansing. One of the main reasons I'm leaving my position here with the county party is I'll be heading things up for the Verge for Lansing campaign.
Oh, okay.
Verge will be running for mayor in 2021 this year. That's going to be an interesting primary. Politics in Lansing is going to get a lot more exciting. If you're interested in joining this effort or donating, voteverge.com. The campaign is really just, getting off the ground. Things are going incredibly well. Things are looking great. Thanks for your support, you guys, and looking forward to seeing you more. Right.
All right. Any other announcements? Is there a motion to adjourn? Oh.
I was just gonna say, remember to vote Saturday if you can.
Okay.
And a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Moving support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Great meeting.